The story of humanity is often told through dates, battles, and great achievements. Yet much of what truly shaped the world remains hidden in the quiet corners of time. As the sun sets over ancient ruins, one can almost hear the echoes of civilizations long vanished, whispering secrets that no history book fully captures. The grand monuments, the towering statues, the carefully inscribed tablets, all speak of lives lived with purpose, yet leave us with more questions than answers. How did these people, with tools far simpler than our own, construct wonders that continue to baffle architects and historians today? What knowledge did they hold? And what truths slipped silently into oblivion, carried away by time, weather, or human neglect? Consider a city buried beneath layers of sand, discovered only by chance, its streets frozen in an eternal stillness. There is a quiet tension in imagining the lives that once thrived there, the laughter of children, the hum of markets, the quiet prayers whispered in temples. And yet, alongside this vivid imagery, there is the shadow of mystery. We do not know why they disappeared, whether through war, disease, or some other force beyond our understanding. Their story is half told, and it lingers in that space between certainty and speculation, drawing us in gently, inviting our minds to wander into the unknown. Even the most familiar empires, those etched clearly into textbooks and memorialized in grand narratives, had their secrets. Pharaohs of Egypt, emperors of Rome, kings of forgotten lands, all left behind fragments that puzzle historians to this day. Hidden chambers, cryptic inscriptions, and artifacts that defy conventional explanation challenge our understanding of their worlds. These remnants remind us that history is rarely a simple, linear tale. There is always more beneath the surface, a shadowed layer where the ordinary intersects with the extraordinary, where known events brush against unsolved riddles. The thrill of historical mystery lies not only in the pursuit of answers, but in the spaces between them, the delicate tension between what we know and what we can only imagine. It is in these spaces that curiosity thrives, that imagination awakens, and that our minds begin to construct narratives that may never be confirmed. Picture, for a moment, a long-lost artifact resting quietly in the dust of a forgotten tomb, waiting to tell its story. Its meaning is obscured, yet it radiates significance, hinting at civilizations that were more complex, more inventive, and more mysterious than we might readily acknowledge. As we journey through this exploration, we will move gently between the tangible and the enigmatic, observing the interplay of light and shadow that defines human history. Some chapters will illuminate the brilliance of innovation, the courage of discovery, or the sweep of empire, while others will draw us into the quieter, more haunting corners, where questions linger and mysteries persist. This balance between what is known and what remains unknown will guide our path, offering both a sense of wonder and a calm, reflective rhythm suited to contemplation and quiet listening. The mysteries of history are not always grand or dramatic. They are often subtle, almost imperceptible, residing in the small inconsistencies, the unusual choices, or the unexplained disappearances of people, knowledge, or entire cultures. These whispers of the past are as compelling as any battle or conquest because they connect us to the universal human experience, the search for meaning, the confrontation with uncertainty, and the enduring desire to understand our place in the world. As we prepare to step further into these stories, let us carry with us the sense of gentle curiosity, allowing the mysteries to unfold at their own pace. There is no rush, no need to solve every puzzle immediately, no requirement to grasp every detail. Instead, we can listen, reflect, and imagine, letting the echoes of history stir our minds as softly as the wind through an ancient forest. Every ruin, every artifact, every shadowed corner has a tale to tell, and in this quiet exploration, we can begin to hear them, one gentle whisper at a time. It is within this calm, reflective space that the journey begins, inviting us to step lightly through the corridors of time, to feel the pulse of civilizations past, and to sense the subtle forces that shape the world in ways both seen and unseen. In the balance between the known and the unknown, we will find not only stories of human achievement and loss, but also the enduring allure of the mysteries that continue to shape our understanding of history itself. And so, with quiet anticipation, we move forward, letting the shadows of the past guide us toward the remarkable and sometimes inexplicable events that altered the course of civilization. Across the vast expanse of time, entire civilizations have risen, flourished, and then vanished, leaving behind tantalizing fragments that invite both study and speculation. These lost societies often leave a faint imprint on the earth, a buried city, a fragmented tablet, or a mysterious monument that hints at lives once full of purpose, culture, and ambition. As we trace the faint outlines of these forgotten worlds, there's a quiet tension between what we can see and what has been irretrievably lost, a gentle pull between understanding and wonder. The allure of these vanished civilizations lies not merely in their achievements, but in the questions that remain unanswered: how they lived, why they disappeared, and what knowledge they may have carried with them into obscurity. Consider the Indus Valley Civilization, a network of cities that thrived along the rivers of what is now Pakistan and India. Sophisticated urban planning, complex drainage systems, and standardized weights and measures speak of a society that understood order and function at a level that still surprises modern engineers. Yet, despite their achievements, the story of the Indus people ends abruptly. Their script remains undeciphered, their reasons for decline uncertain. Were they overtaken by environmental changes, internal strife, or perhaps forces entirely unknown to us? The uncertainty of their disappearance casts a shadow over the brilliance of their accomplishments, leaving only fragments to guide our imagination. Far to the west, in Mesoamerica, the Olmec civilization carved colossal heads from stone, each face enigmatic and individually distinct. These massive sculptures, weighing many tons, are scattered across landscapes that have since been reclaimed by forests and rivers. The Olmecs left behind no written records to explain the purpose of these creations, nor the methods by which they transported and erected such immense monuments. Here again, the contrast is striking. Human ingenuity and artistic mastery against the veil of mystery that time has drawn. In contemplating these relics, we are drawn into a contemplative reverie, pondering not only the skill of those who made them, but the society that gave rise to such extraordinary works. Even civilizations more familiar in the historical record harbor secrets. The Egyptians, celebrated for pyramids that continue to fascinate, offer glimpses into a culture deeply attuned to ritual, religion, and power. Yet beneath the grandeur of these monuments lies a labyrinth of unsolved enigmas, hidden chambers, cryptic hieroglyphs, and artifacts whose purpose is debated to this day. It is tempting to think that the story of the Egyptians is fully known, but each discovery only deepens the mystery. Tombs are found empty, inscriptions partially erased, and traces of ceremonial practices hint at beliefs and knowledge lost to time. In this space between the monumental and the elusive, history becomes a gentle puzzle, inviting both reflection and quiet curiosity. The phenomenon of vanished civilizations is not limited to antiquity. Societies across the world, from the Etruscans of Italy to the Khmer Empire of Southeast Asia, reveal glimpses of complex cultures whose details elude modern understanding. Cities like Angkor, once bustling with trade, religion, and governance, now lie partially submerged and overgrown, as nature slowly reclaims the human footprint. The contrast between the visible grandeur and the surrounding mystery serves as a reminder that civilizations, no matter how powerful, exist within the delicate balance of environment, technology, and human endeavor. Some disappear almost without trace, while others leave echoes, subtle yet persistent, that ripple into the present. The fascination with lost civilizations is amplified by the artifacts they leave behind. Pottery, sculptures, and ruins tell us much about daily life, yet they often speak in riddles. A fragment of a tablet might hint at a complex social hierarchy, a ceremonial practice, or a form of governance unknown elsewhere. A collapsed temple may suggest rituals or beliefs only partially understood, while a network of roads disappearing into uncharted terrain sparks questions about trade, travel, and communication. In each instance, the known and the unknown coexist, encouraging the mind to wander gently, to imagine the textures, colors, and sounds of worlds that no longer exist. In exploring these vanished societies, there is also an implicit reflection on the fragility of civilization itself. Time, climate, conflict, and human neglect have the power to erase even the most sophisticated cultures. The echoes of these lost worlds remind us that history is neither permanent nor absolute. It is a delicate accumulation of memory, material, and myth. And yet, despite their disappearance, these civilizations continue to shape the present. Techniques, ideas, and artistic inspirations are often rediscovered and reinterpreted, influencing societies centuries or even millennia later. The interplay between disappearance and legacy forms a quiet, haunting rhythm, a meditation on the persistence of human creativity even in the face of oblivion. The vanished cities and forgotten civilizations also reveal the diversity of human experience. They challenge our assumptions about progress, innovation, and cultural development. Some societies mastered mathematics or astronomy in ways that rival or surpass later civilizations. Others developed political systems, trade networks, or social customs that anticipated concepts still relevant today. The mysteries surrounding their disappearance compel us to consider not just what we have learned from the past, but what has been irretrievably lost. In contemplating these gaps, we are invited to reflect not only on human ingenuity, but on the limitations of knowledge, the impermanence of achievement, and the quiet beauty of curiosity itself. As we move forward in this exploration, the stories of lost civilizations will guide us gently from the monumental to the intimate, from the tangible remnants of stone and clay to the subtle echoes of culture, belief, and human endeavor. They prepare us for encounters with leaders whose intentions remain opaque, inventions that predate their time, and mysteries of nature and society that continue to influence the course of history. By tracing the rise and fall of these societies, we cultivate a reflective awareness of the vast tapestry of human existence, a tapestry woven equally of brilliance and enigma, light and shadow. In the calm of this contemplation, we begin to appreciate the profound allure of lost civilizations, their ability to inspire imagination, to provoke questions without immediate answers, and to remind us that the story of humanity is as much about the unknown as it is about the known. The echoes of these forgotten worlds beckon us forward, inviting us to walk quietly through the corridors of time, to peer into the shadows left by vanished peoples, and to sense, ever so softly, the mysteries that shaped the course of civilization. While entire civilizations may vanish, the legacies of the individuals who guided them often linger, wrapped in equal parts accomplishment and enigma. Ancient leaders, from mighty pharaohs to distant emperors, wielded power that shaped cities, regions, and sometimes the entire course of human history. Yet behind the grandeur of their reigns lie shadows of mystery, decisions made in secrecy, motives lost to time, and actions whose consequences ripple across generations. These figures, though recorded in texts or immortalized in statues, remain partially veiled, reminding us that human history is as much about what is hidden as what is revealed. Consider the pharaohs of Egypt, whose names echo through millennia. Their tombs, filled with treasures and inscriptions, offer a window into both belief and ambition. Yet even here, gaps remain. Hidden chambers discovered centuries after their construction suggest that the stories we have inherited are incomplete. Were the rituals performed in these secret spaces? What knowledge or power did these leaders hope to preserve or conceal? As we contemplate these questions, we are drawn into a gentle, reflective curiosity, appreciating that the full truth of their lives may remain forever elusive, yet profoundly instructive. Across the seas, in the sprawling Roman Empire, emperors carved paths of conquest and innovation, but their personal decisions often concealed layers of intrigue. Consider the emperors whose political machinations, betrayals, and subtle strategies shaped the destiny of millions. Many actions that appear clear in historical record were influenced by unknown counsel, clandestine threats, or private motivations. Statues, coins, and documents offer fragments of understanding, but historians are left to fill in the spaces between with careful conjecture. The tension between what is recorded and what is hidden mirrors the larger interplay of light and shadow that defines history itself. In Asia, rulers like the emperors of China or the kings of distant kingdoms often surrounded themselves with secrecy as a tool of governance. Palaces were constructed with hidden passages, edicts were carefully guarded, and advisors moved in whispered corridors of influence. The physical remnants, tombs, inscriptions, ceremonial artifacts, reveal hints of extraordinary vision, yet never the complete story. In reflecting on these enigmatic figures, we are reminded that leadership has always carried a duality: the visible authority exercised over the populace and the hidden intentions that shape the unseen course of events. Some leaders left a more personal mystery behind. Figures such as Alexander the Great or Genghis Khan, whose deeds are well documented in broad strokes, also remain enigmas in the finer details. The methods by which they maintained loyalty, inspired devotion, or engineered tactical brilliance are partially obscured, leaving room for both scholarly interpretation and imaginative reflection. Their legacies demonstrate that power is not merely exerted, but also carefully managed, often behind closed doors, in ways that the passage of time has rendered unknowable. In pondering these gaps, we sense the humanity of these figures: ambition, fear, wisdom, and perhaps regret, all intertwining in complex patterns that remain partially unseen. Artifacts and inscriptions offer glimpses into the personal and political lives of these leaders. A carefully inscribed decree may suggest intentions and priorities, but rarely the subtleties of the human mind behind it. A statue may convey strength and confidence, yet cannot fully reveal doubt or contemplation. Through these fragments, the audience is invited to imagine the lived experience of rulers, the quiet moments in which decisions that shape thousands or millions were made, the private thoughts that never crossed into record, and the subtle influences of advisors, envoys, and rivals. This reflective approach emphasizes the beauty of mystery, the poetry of history, and the gentle curiosity that arises from partial knowledge. The intrigue of historical leaders is amplified when their legacies are intertwined with unresolved events. Battles won or lost, treaties forged, dynasties begun or ended, all carry layers of uncertainty about the true intentions, strategies, and foresight behind them. These enigmas create a bridge between the grand and the intimate, between the monumental impact of policy and conquest and the hidden, human impulses that guided them. Listeners are drawn into a contemplative engagement with history, sensing the interplay of choice, circumstance, and the unseen forces that quietly steer outcomes. It is also in the mysteries surrounding leadership that we observe the delicate tension between power and impermanence. Despite extraordinary influence, even the most commanding figures are ultimately subject to the inexorable flow of time. Monuments crumble, documents fade, and oral histories transform into legend. Yet within this impermanence lies a quiet fascination. Even as the details of their lives slip into obscurity, the echoes of their decisions endure, influencing societies in ways both obvious and subtle. This duality, strength and fragility, visibility and secrecy, imbues the study of leaders with a gentle, immersive rhythm, perfectly suited to reflective listening. Beyond politics and conquest, enigmatic leaders often shape culture, science, and spirituality. Some commission works of art, sponsored innovations, or preserve knowledge that would have been lost without their guidance. In other cases, they may have hidden wisdom, suppressed dissent, or intentionally erased inconvenient truths from the historical record. The interplay of creation and concealment forms a rich texture, revealing that leadership is rarely a straightforward narrative. It is a complex dance of light and shadow, of public triumph and private mystery, that continues to captivate those who seek to understand the human past. In contemplating these enigmatic rulers, we are reminded that history is rarely a simple sequence of events. It is a tapestry woven from choices seen and unseen, intentions stated and concealed, and legacies remembered and forgotten. Each leader leaves a footprint, sometimes grand, sometimes subtle, that intersects with countless lives, shaping societies in ways that are not always clear. The mysteries surrounding their actions invite gentle curiosity, encouraging the mind to wander through the corridors of power, imagination, and consequence. As we move from the stories of ancient leaders into the next phase of our exploration, we begin to see the interconnectedness of human ambition and mystery. The vanished civilizations left their marks in stone and artifact, while the enigmatic leaders guided them in ways partially hidden from view. Together, they form a continuum of intrigue that stretches across time, reminding us that every decision, every discovery, and every act of creation carries with it both illumination and shadow. In this interplay, the stage is set for the subsequent exploration of the subtle forces, environmental, technological, and cultural, that shaped history in ways often unseen but deeply influential. Through these reflections, we begin to understand that the allure of historical leaders lies not merely in their power, but in the questions that persist long after their reigns have ended. Their mysteries become invitations to observe, to ponder, and to imagine, creating a calm, immersive space in which the past is both known and unknowable. It is this gentle tension, this quiet curiosity, that will guide us as we move deeper into the unexplained forces, inventions, and phenomena that have continuously altered the course of civilization. Even as human ambition and leadership shaped the course of history, the Earth itself quietly influenced the rise and fall of civilizations. Mountains shifted imperceptibly, rivers altered their courses, and the climate shifted in ways that were felt deeply by those who relied upon the land for survival. These natural forces, often subtle yet profound, remind us that while humans shape the world, they are also shaped by it. Catastrophic events, floods, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, have left traces both dramatic and faint, etching themselves into the memories of societies and, in some cases, leaving gaps that continue to puzzle historians. Consider a city thriving along a riverbank, its streets bustling with commerce, its markets filled with the aroma of spices and the chatter of merchants. A sudden flood sweeps through, reshaping the land and forcing its inhabitants to flee or adapt. Generations later, archaeologists uncover foundations buried beneath layers of sediment, evidence of life abruptly interrupted. The records may speak of survival, of rebuilding, or of loss, but many details remain unknown. In these silences, there is a quiet tension, a space where imagination meets fact, allowing us to sense both the resilience of human societies and the unpredictability of the natural world. Volcanic eruptions, too, have left indelible marks on history. Consider a civilization whose crops, architecture, and daily life were shaped by fertile soil and temperate weather. An eruption spreads ash across the land, darkening skies, poisoning fields, and disrupting trade. The people endure, adapt, or vanish, and the remnants of their lives persist in the quiet, as ruins, artifacts, and the occasional inscription hint at the drama that unfolded. The contrast between the vibrant, organized life before the eruption and the sudden chaos afterward evokes a deep sense of reflection. It is a reminder that history is never solely the story of human action. It is also the story of our fragile coexistence with forces far larger than ourselves. Even seemingly slow or subtle changes, climate shifts, prolonged droughts, or rising seas, have shaped civilizations in ways that are only partially understood. Empires that thrived for centuries may have declined not due to conquest, but because the environment quietly shifted around them. Crops failed, trade networks faltered, and populations moved in search of sustenance. These environmental mysteries highlight the delicate balance between human innovation and the natural world, emphasizing that some questions in history do not have straightforward answers. Instead, they invite contemplation, a gentle acknowledgement of the interplay between the known and the unknown, the visible and the hidden. In reflecting upon these natural forces, one notices a subtle rhythm. The earth itself acts as a silent architect, guiding societies in directions that may have been unplanned or unforeseen. Mountains and rivers dictate trade routes, climate influences migration, and natural disasters shape the rise and fall of cities. Yet, despite the power of these forces, humanity's ingenuity often finds ways to adapt. Irrigation channels, protective walls, and resilient urban planning speak of societies that observed, learned, and responded. The tension between nature's unpredictability and human resourcefulness forms a quiet narrative of perseverance and mystery. The traces left behind by these environmental events often mingle with human history in ways that complicate our understanding. Ruins buried beneath volcanic ash, settlements abandoned due to shifting riverbeds, or entire agricultural systems disrupted by climatic change all challenge historians to reconstruct the story from incomplete evidence. In these moments, history feels less like a fixed narrative and more like a delicate interplay between observation, deduction, and imagination. We are invited not only to witness the consequences of these forces, but to ponder the resilience and fragility of human societies, as well as the enduring mysteries that emerge when nature intervenes. As this reflection draws to a close, it is clear that human history cannot be separated from the world in which it unfolds. Leaders, civilizations, and achievements exist within a larger context shaped by forces that are sometimes visible and sometimes concealed. Floods, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and slow climatic shifts act as reminders that while humanity can shape its environment, it is also subject to it. This duality of influence, human on nature, nature on human, creates a gentle tension that prepares us for the next exploration. The innovations, inventions, and discoveries that arose in response to both ambition and adversity, and the mysteries that linger within them. In this quiet balance between human action and natural influence, we begin to understand the subtle ways in which the earth has directed the currents of history. It is a space of reflection, of soft curiosity, where questions outweigh answers, and where the mind can linger on the delicate dance between civilization and the natural world. Here, in this gentle contemplation, we are ready to follow the story forward, into the ingenuity, invention, and unexplained brilliance that has continuously altered the course of human life. Human ingenuity has always existed in quiet conversation with the mysteries of the natural world, a dialogue that has produced inventions and innovations sometimes centuries ahead of their time. These creations, while born from necessity, curiosity, or imagination, often leave us pondering the limits of what was possible in eras we might otherwise consider simple or primitive. In the ruins of ancient cities, the scattered artifacts, and the faint inscriptions, we glimpse glimpses of minds that conceived complex mechanisms, architectural wonders, and technological feats that continue to astonish modern scholars. The Antikythera of a mechanism, for instance, discovered among the remains of a sunken ship, offers a glimpse into astronomical calculations and engineering sophistication far beyond what might be expected of its era. Its gears and inscriptions suggest a civilization capable of observing, predicting, and recording celestial movements with extraordinary precision. Yet much about its origin and purpose remains an enigma. Across continents, in regions as varied as the Middle East, Asia, in Europe, similar mysteries emerge. Damascus steel, known for its incredible strength and distinctive patterns, was produced in ways that modern metallurgists still strive to replicate. The techniques, closely guarded and often lost with the passage of time, hint at artisans with a mastery of materials that borders on the alchemical. These inventions were not merely tools or weapons. They were embodiments of human understanding, creativity, and the relentless pursuit of perfection. Yet, as with many innovations, much about their development and transmission remains veiled, leaving us to wonder about the minds and methods that brought them into being. Engineering and architecture offer further evidence of ancient brilliance. Massive temples, aqueducts, and fortifications, built without the benefit of modern machinery, demonstrate an intuitive understanding of mathematics, physics, and materials. Cities like Machu Picchu, perched high in the Andes, or Petra, carved into rose-colored cliffs, challenge assumptions about the limitations of pre-modern societies. How did these people transport stones weighing tons across rugged terrain? How did they ensure stability, symmetry, and durability with tools we might consider rudimentary? The physical remnants speak not only to technical skill, but also to the ingenuity of problem-solving, to the intersection of necessity and imagination that defines human progress. Some inventions are remarkable not for their scale, but for their subtlety and foresight. Ancient irrigation systems, for example, reveal a sophisticated understanding of water management, agriculture, and environmental adaptation. Canals, reservoirs, and drainage networks were often designed with meticulous attention to seasonal fluctuations, demonstrating foresight and an intimate knowledge of the local ecosystem. In other regions, early calendars, navigational tools, and timekeeping devices suggest an awareness of celestial cycles and temporal measurement that hints at both practicality and philosophical reflection. Each discovery becomes a window into a society's priorities, values, and the hidden knowledge that may have guided daily life. Beyond the material, some inventions reflect abstract thinking that transcends immediate necessity. Pythagorean geometry, the early principles of mechanical levers, and rudimentary understanding of optics and astronomy illustrate that intellectual curiosity has always walked hand in hand with practical innovation. These breakthroughs remind us that human minds were reaching for understanding long before modern scientific methods formalized knowledge. When these achievements are coupled with the enduring mysteries surrounding their creation, we begin to see a tapestry of ingenuity threaded with unanswered questions. How certain techniques were discovered, how knowledge was transmitted, and why some advances were lost to time while others persisted. The interplay between invention and mystery often carries a subtle tension. Some artifacts, tools, or mechanisms appear far ahead of their time, provoking questions about the transmission of knowledge, the influence of trade and travel, and the possibility of lost wisdom. A navigational tool found in one region may hint at connections across continents, while an architectural method discovered in isolation raises questions about parallel innovation. These anomalies challenge conventional narratives, reminding us that history is neither linear nor fully comprehensible. In reflecting on these achievements, we are invited to linger in wonder, to imagine the experiments, failures, and breakthroughs that shaped the world long before written records could capture them fully. Technology was not always developed in isolation. Trade, cultural exchange, and migration often facilitated the spread of ideas, creating subtle networks of influence that spanned regions and generations. The same mathematical principles that guided construction in one empire might reappear in a distant civilization centuries later. Techniques of metallurgy, agriculture, and architecture frequently traveled alongside merchants, pilgrims, and scholars, creating a web of knowledge that defies easy mapping. In these intersections of human movement and invention, mysteries persist, not merely about the methods themselves, but about the stories of the people who carried, adapted, or lost this knowledge along the way. The beauty of these ancient inventions lies not only in their functionality, but in the questions they leave unanswered. Each artifact, mechanism, or architectural marvel invites contemplation about human curiosity, ingenuity, and the capacity to shape the environment in innovative ways. We are drawn into imagining the lives of those who conceive these ideas, their experiments, their successes and failures, their quiet moments of insight, and the broader cultural and societal context that nurtured such creativity. It is within this delicate balance of known achievement and enduring mystery that the allure of history deepens, fostering a sense of quiet curiosity suitable for reflective listening. As we step back from the physical manifestations of ingenuity, a pattern begins to emerge. Human innovation is both a response to challenge and a quest for understanding. Some inventions arose from necessity, others from intellectual curiosity, and still others from spiritual or aesthetic exploration. Yet in each case, traces remain that hint at a larger story, one that intertwines knowledge, culture, and mystery. It is this interweaving that sets the stage for the next chapters of our exploration. The strategies, battles, and conflicts that both tested and revealed the limits of human ingenuity and the enduring enigmas that history preserves within these stories. In contemplating these achievements, we are invited to move gently from the ingenuity of invention to the unfolding drama of human ambition, strategy, and leadership. Each creation, whether a complex astronomical device, a masterfully forged sword, or a city ingeniously adapted to its environment, reflects a dialogue between human curiosity and the unknown. It is a dialogue that continues to echo across the centuries, reminding us that the course of civilization has always been shaped not just by what is possible, but by what remains to be discovered, imagined, and understood. While inventions and innovations reveal the brilliance of human ingenuity, history is equally shaped by conflict, struggle, and the mysteries that surround battles both remembered and forgotten. Wars have defined the rise and fall of empires, yet not every conflict is fully recorded, and not every strategy is completely understood. Some battles, long lost to time, continue to echo through the ruins and artifacts left behind, hinting at decisions, tactics, and human courage that remain partly obscured. It is within this space, between the tangible traces of human action and the unknown motivations that guided it, that history reveals its quiet, compelling tension. Imagine a battlefield stretching across plains or hills, once alive with the movement of armies, the clash of weapons, and the muted cries of those caught in the sweep of events. Today, the land may appear serene, fields gently swaying in the wind, yet beneath this calm lies a story of strategy, ingenuity, and sometimes inexplicable outcome. Some victories are recorded with clarity, yet the reasons for success or failure remain uncertain. A general's intuition, a hidden maneuver, or a sudden natural event may have turned the tide. These uncertainties invite reflection, offering a meditative perspective on the fragility and unpredictability of human power. Lost battles are among the most haunting of historical mysteries. There are encounters that left little evidence, known only through fragmented records, myths, or legends. The precise number of combatants, the sequence of movements, and the critical decisions often remain elusive, leaving room for speculation and wonder. Even in well-documented conflicts, key details, why a certain maneuver succeeded or why a supposed advantage was squandered, sometimes escape explanation. This interplay between recorded history and hidden reality reinforces the idea that human events are often shaped by forces beyond our full comprehension, whether those forces are human, environmental, or chance. Beyond the battles themselves, the strategies of war often remain enigmatic. Fortifications, trenches, and siege works reveal ingenuity, but they may also hint at techniques whose origins are unclear or whose full effectiveness is uncertain. The planning, coordination, and intelligence behind these actions often leave traces that challenge historians to piece together coherent narratives. We are invited to imagine the countless variables, the weather, the terrain, the morale of troops, the unknown intentions of enemies that influenced outcomes. In doing so, history becomes less about rigid facts and more about a contemplative exploration of possibilities, a quiet meditation on the interplay of human skill and the unpredictable currents of events. Even the aftermath of battles carries mysteries. Cities that survived sieges may have been spared by circumstance, negotiation, or unseen forces, while others were destroyed, their people dispersed or assimilated into neighboring lands. The ripple effects of conflict can influence trade, culture, religion, and governance for generations, yet the precise mechanisms often remain unclear. Did a single decision, a missed signal, or a sudden illness among leaders change the course of history? In pondering these possibilities, we recognize the fragility of human achievements and the subtle threads by which history is woven. Some conflicts remain mysterious, not because they were poorly documented, but because records were deliberately altered, lost, or destroyed. Chronicles may have been censored, victories exaggerated, or defeats erased to serve political narratives. In these silences, there is a dual fascination: the challenge of reconstructing the truth and the sense of the hidden, the shadowed layer of history, where human motives are obscured and intentions remain partially veiled. It is here that curiosity thrives, and the mind is gently drawn into speculation, reflection, and imagination, guided by the traces left behind in artifacts, ruins, and the occasional narrative fragment. Even in ancient times, wars were not merely contests of force. They were expressions of strategy, ingenuity, and understanding of both people and environment. Leaders had to anticipate not only the actions of their enemies, but also the response of their own populations, the reliability of supply lines, and the influence of terrain and climate. Many of these considerations are partially lost to time, leaving us to wonder how such calculations were made. The subtle interplay of known tactics and unknown factors creates a quiet fascination, as we imagine generals and commanders weighing choices whose consequences extended far beyond their lifetimes. The lessons of these shadowy conflicts are not limited to the battlefield. They ripple outward, influencing diplomacy, culture, and technological development. Innovations in weaponry, fortification, and logistics often emerge in response to the demands of warfare. Some of these developments are well documented, while others remain shrouded in mystery, their origins and dissemination uncertain. This duality reinforces a recurring theme. History is shaped equally by human ingenuity and by the unknown, and the mysteries embedded within wars remind us that the course of civilization has often pivoted on events that are only partially understood. As we reflect on these enigmatic wars, we are also reminded of the human element, the courage, fear, and unpredictability of individuals whose lives intersected with larger forces. Soldiers, advisors, and even civilians played roles that sometimes remain invisible in the records, yet their actions contributed to outcomes that shaped generations. The interplay between individual choices and broader historical currents highlights the delicate balance between intention and circumstance, a balance that continues to captivate the reflective mind. By exploring these mysteries, we prepare to consider not only the overt consequences of conflict, but also the subtle transformations that societies undergo in response to crisis. Wars and battles leave marks on civilizations that endure long after the fighting has ceased. Shifts in governance, migration patterns, cultural exchange, and technological innovation. These ripple effects, while sometimes visible in hindsight, often carry layers of complexity and ambiguity. In this space, history becomes an immersive contemplation, a gentle unfolding of cause and effect, where each unanswered question deepens our appreciation of human resilience and the subtle forces that shape our world. The quiet tension between what is known and what remains mysterious in history, whether an invention, leadership, or conflict, forms a thread that continues throughout the story of civilization. As we move from the mysteries of battlefields to the hidden repositories of knowledge, lost texts, and forbidden wisdom, we carry forward the sense of reflective curiosity that has guided our journey. It is a curiosity tempered by calm observation, a desire to understand without rushing to conclusion, and a recognition that the true richness of history often lies in the spaces between certainty and speculation. Amid the rise and fall of empires, the brilliance of human invention, and the shadows of conflict, there exists another kind of mystery, one less tangible but no less profound: the disappearance of knowledge. Entire libraries have been lost to time, manuscripts destroyed by fire or flood, and scrolls vanished into the silence of forgotten archives. Some texts were deliberately hidden, suppressed for their controversial ideas, or kept secret by select groups who feared the consequences of wider dissemination. What was contained in these writings, scientific knowledge, philosophical thought, or spiritual insight, remains tantalizingly out of reach, leaving echoes of wisdom that continue to intrigue, puzzle, and inspire. The allure of lost knowledge is that it bridges the known with the unknowable, inviting the mind to wander in quiet contemplation. One of the most famous examples is the Library of Alexandria, a repository of learning that has become both legend and historical reality. Scholars believe it housed countless works on mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and philosophy, perhaps capturing knowledge from civilizations long before Greece or Rome reached their zenith. Yet, despite centuries of fascination and scholarly pursuit, the exact contents of the library remain unknown. Was it fire, war, or neglect that led to its destruction? Were there works that would have fundamentally changed the trajectory of human understanding? These unanswered questions create a space of reflection where history and imagination gently intertwine, and the mind is free to consider the infinite possibilities of what might have been. Beyond Alexandria, other lost texts have left equally profound gaps in our comprehension. The Gnostic Gospels, discovered in fragments centuries later, reveal alternate perspectives on spirituality, belief, and the human relationship with the divine, perspectives that were once deliberately hidden from broader society. These writings, partially suppressed and partially destroyed, hint at a complex, multifaceted understanding of faith that challenges conventional narratives. They remind us that what survives in the historical record is often just a fraction of the ideas, debates, and revelations that existed in the minds of people long ago. In reflecting on these absences, we gain a quiet appreciation for the fragility of knowledge and the profound influence of what has been lost. Some lost knowledge is embedded not in text, but in practices, techniques, and craftsmanship. Ancient civilizations often possess skills that are difficult to reconstruct fully today. The formulas for Damascus steel, the methods used to construct certain pyramids, or the precise agricultural techniques of vanished societies are known only through observation and replication attempts. While some of this knowledge has been partially rediscovered, gaps remain, hinting at centuries of experience and understanding that have been irrevocably erased. The mystery lies not only in what was achieved, but in how it was achieved, and in the lives of those who understood processes now partially forgotten. The deliberate concealment of knowledge adds another layer to its enigma. Secret societies, religious orders, and powerful rulers sometimes controlled access to information, believing that certain wisdom was too potent, dangerous, or sacred for general use. This selective preservation, often shrouded in ritual or coded language, leaves traces that historians and archaeologists can only partially decode. Symbols carved into stone, cryptic inscriptions in manuscripts, or patterns in architectural design may all carry meaning that remains elusive. The tension between what was intended to be known and what remains hidden invites reflection, creating a calm fascination with the interplay of power, secrecy, and human curiosity. Even in cases where knowledge survives, it often arrives incomplete. Manuscripts may be fragmented, inscriptions weathered, or oral traditions partially remembered. Each missing word or lost chapter is an invitation to speculate gently, to imagine the richness of ideas that once flourished. The gaps themselves carry a form of poetry, emphasizing the impermanent nature of human achievement and the delicate balance between memory and oblivion. It is in these silences that history whispers most clearly, reminding us that our understanding is always provisional, that every answer is entwined with further questions, and that the pursuit of knowledge is as much about the search as the discovery. Some mysteries of knowledge also transcend geography and culture, suggesting networks of information and influence that were surprisingly far-reaching. Trade, exploration, and migration often facilitated the spread of ideas. Yet many of these connections are partially obscured. Did civilizations in distant lands share techniques for astronomy, mathematics, or medicine that we cannot fully trace? Did travelers carry manuscripts across seas and deserts that have since been lost? The fragmentary evidence encourages a contemplative approach, inviting us to see the human story as a web of curiosity, learning, and exchange that is both illuminated and shadowed by what has disappeared. The lost knowledge of humanity also intersects with spiritual and philosophical inquiry. Writings on metaphysics, morality, cosmology, and the nature of existence may have shaped cultural and intellectual development in ways we can only infer. Certain insights, once accessible to those living in antiquity, are now left to interpretation, reconstruction, or imagination. In pondering these possibilities, the mind engages in a quiet meditation, considering the fragility of understanding and the enduring fascination with mysteries that persist across time. This reflective approach allows us to embrace the beauty of what we do not know while appreciating the insights that have endured. As we contemplate these vanished texts and hidden wisdoms, it becomes clear that the pursuit of knowledge is a continuous dialogue across generations. Each discovery, each artifact, and each fragmentary manuscript is a bridge connecting the present to minds long gone. Even in their absence, lost works influence the trajectory of civilization, shaping what is remembered and inspiring the curiosity that drives new exploration. In this gentle interplay between presence and absence, history becomes not a fixed chronicle, but a living, breathing tapestry in which light and shadow coexist, and where every unanswered question becomes a doorway to wonder. In moving from the mysteries of lost knowledge to the spiritual and cultural enigmas that shaped human belief, we carry forward the same sense of quiet curiosity. The vanished texts, secret practices, and hidden wisdoms reveal that much of human history is guided by forces both visible and unseen. By tracing these delicate threads, we prepare to explore how faith, ritual, and spiritual practice intertwined with human civilization, leaving behind symbols, artifacts, and enigmas that continue to captivate the reflective mind. In this space, the past is not merely recorded but felt, and the unknown becomes a companion in our journey of understanding. The empires of the ancient world were not merely defined by their monuments and armies, but by the quiet shadows that moved behind them. In every court, behind every golden throne, there were whispers of betrayals, of disappearances, of ambitions that changed the course of history. These were the secret histories, the unwritten volumes of empire, where mystery and power walked hand in hand. While stone tablets and scrolls recorded victories, the true pulse of civilization often beat within what was left unsaid. When we think of the great conquerors, Alexander, Caesar, Cleopatra, Ashoka, we imagine clarity, their lives illuminated by fame and conquest. Yet, as centuries pass, each of their stories begins to fade into mist. Take Alexander the Great, whose campaigns reshaped the world from Greece to India. We know his triumphs, his strategies, his boundless ambition. But what his end? His death remains a riddle, sudden, feverish, and surrounded by contradictions. Some say it was poison, others a natural illness. Yet the strangest mystery endures, the disappearance of his body. Ancient accounts tell us it was carried to Egypt to be enshrined in a magnificent tomb in Alexandria. For centuries, pilgrims and emperors claimed to have seen it. Then, as if swallowed by time itself, it vanished. No trace has ever been found. The conqueror who sought to rule the known world lies unknown, somewhere between legend and dust. The Roman Empire, too, harbored its enigmas. Among them, the fate of the Ninth Legion stands as one of history's most haunting absences. Stationed in Britain, this proud unit marched north around the year 120 CE and was never seen again. Entire legions were not supposed to simply disappear. The records stop abruptly. The silence of the scrolls is deafening. Did they fall to ambush in the Scottish Highlands? Were they reassigned or destroyed elsewhere, their memory intentionally erased? Scholars debate, yet no answer satisfies. What remains is an emptiness on the map and in the mind, a reminder that even the most disciplined machinery of empire can dissolve into mystery. Beyond Rome, the empires of the East carried their own hidden currents. In China's imperial courts, the rise and fall of dynasties were often orchestrated in secret. Eunuchs and scholars competed in games of invisible power, where a single brushstroke on a decree could seal the fate of thousands. Entire reforms, entire histories, were buried for the sake of political survival. Some emperors vanished into the Forbidden City's silence, their fates rewritten to preserve harmony. And beneath all of it lay an unspoken truth, that empires do not merely conquer land, they conquer narrative. The past becomes what power allows it to be remembered as. In the deserts of Egypt, another silence lingers. The tombs of pharaohs have revealed gold, artistry, and faith, yet some kings have eluded discovery entirely. The resting place of Cleopatra and Mark Antony, for instance, remains one of history's most romantic mysteries. The last pharaoh of Egypt, a woman of extraordinary intellect and charisma, ended her life in tragedy as the Roman legions closed in. Ancient writers claim she was buried with her lover, their tomb sealed beside the Nile. Archaeologists have searched for centuries, guided by texts, by intuition, by dreamlike hope. But Cleopatra still sleeps unseen. Her story lives not in her bones, but in the longing to find her. Empires also guarded secrets more abstract, the secret of continuity itself. When an empire fell, its heirs often rewrote its memory to justify their rise. The fires that consumed libraries, the erasure of heretical names from monuments, were not random acts of chaos. They were tools of control. In Mesopotamia, in Persia, in Byzantium, rulers sought not only to govern the present, but to command how the past would be remembered. The result is a tapestry of deliberate gaps, centuries of human experience stitched together with threads of silence. What we call lost history may, in truth, be hidden history. There are smaller mysteries, too, quieter, more intimate. The strange death of Attila the Hun, who died on his wedding night, reportedly drowning in his own blood. The disappearance of the great library of Ashurbanipal, a treasure of early civilization lost beneath centuries of sand. The unmarked grave of Genghis Khan, hidden so carefully that even his own followers were executed to preserve the secret. Each of these absences has a power of its own. They remind us that greatness is never eternal, and that history sometimes chooses to veil what it deems too potent to reveal. Yet for every mystery erased by time, a new one emerges in the fragments that remain. Clay tablets, broken statues, cryptic inscriptions. These are echoes of unseen dramas. The scholar's lamp and the archaeologist's brush work like small candles in a vast night. And with every discovery, the line between certainty and speculation blurs. Did Alexander's generals conspire to keep his body hidden, fearing it might divide his empire? Did Rome intentionally erase the Ninth Legion's shame? Did Cleopatra's tomb sink beneath the waters that once nourished her kingdom? Every answer opens a dozen more questions, and perhaps that is the nature of empire itself, to inspire awe through what is seen and reverence through what is not. In the stillness of these ancient riddles, one can sense a paradox. The stronger an empire becomes, the more fragile its truth grows. Power thrives on perception, and perception depends on mystery. The unknown serves as both veil and mirror, protecting rulers from scrutiny while binding their people in wonder. Even today, as archaeologists map forgotten cities, and satellites reveal buried roads. The past holds its secrets close. Empires, it seems, are not destroyed by time alone. They're preserved in fragments and whispers by the mysteries they leave behind. As the chapter closes, the camera drifts across ruins bathed in twilight. Broken columns, silent palaces, lost capitals. The narrator's voice softens, carrying the listener from empire's grandeur to something deeper. The recognition that history's secrets are not confined to palaces and battlefields, but live within us as well. The desire to know, the hunger to uncover, the awe before the unanswerable. These are the true inheritances of empire. And as night falls over the remnants of those long-vanished worlds, we are left to wonder. If their mysteries still shape us, then perhaps, in some quiet way, they never truly ended. Across the centuries, humanity has sought the divine not only in prayer and temple walls, but in objects, sacred relics believed to carry the very breath of the eternal. These relics rest in shrines, sealed in glass, hidden in catacombs, or lost beneath shifting sands, yet their power transcends location. They are more than fragments of wood, cloth, or metal. They are bridges between the visible and the unseen, between faith and history, between what we can touch and what we can only believe. In every culture, relics serve as vessels of mystery, shaping civilizations not through proof, but through the quiet force of belief itself. Among the most enduring enigmas stands the Ark of the Covenant. Described in the book of Exodus as the sacred chest containing the tablets of divine law, it was once carried before armies, said to strike down the enemies of Israel with lightning and plague. But at some unknown point in history, the Ark vanished. Some claim it was hidden before the Babylonian conquest, others that it was carried away to distant lands, Ethiopia, perhaps, or buried deep beneath Jerusalem. For centuries, explorers, kings, and priests have searched for it, tracing whispers through deserts and monasteries. In Ethiopia's Aksum, a small chapel guarded by a single monk claims to house the Ark even today, though no one but the guardian himself may gaze upon it. Whether or not at rest, there is less important than the mystery that surrounds it, a mystery that has kept faith alive across generations. The Ark may have disappeared, but its story has endured longer than any empire. If the Ark represents divine power, the Shroud of Turin embodies divine presence. A length of linen, faintly marked with the image of a man's face and body, it is believed by many to be the burial cloth of Jesus. When the shroud first came to light in medieval France, it ignited both devotion and doubt. Scientists have examined it countless times, applying carbon dating, photographic analysis, and chemical tests, yet the image remains inexplicable. It is not paint, nor burn, nor stain in any simple sense. Under soft light, it seems to emerge from the fabric itself, like memory pressed into matter. To the believer, it is proof of resurrection. To the skeptic, a puzzle of art and coincidence. But perhaps its greatest mystery lies not in what it reveals, but in how it continues to evoke wonder. The shroud invites both science and spirit into dialogue, neither fully defeating the other. It is a relic that humbles certainty. There are other relics, darker and more contested. The spear of destiny, said to have pierced the side of Christ at the crucifixion. Legends claim that whoever possesses it holds the power to command the world, a belief that has drawn emperors, conquerors, and occultists through history's corridors. The spear, or rather the fragments believed to be it, reside in different places: Vienna, Rome, Armenia. Each relic carries the same mythic charge. The narrative of divine weaponry, of cosmic legitimacy, has fueled wars, inspired crusades, and haunted the minds of rulers. It shows how easily faith and ambition entwine, how the sacred can be used to sanctify the thirst for dominion. Beneath the gleam of relics often lies the shadow of human desire. Beyond Christendom, relics of equal power shape other faiths. In Buddhism, fragments of the Buddha's remains, teeth, bones, ashes, are enshrined in stupas across Asia, radiating calm rather than conquest. Pilgrims circle these shrines in silence, their steps tracing devotion through centuries. The relics themselves are rarely seen, sealed away within golden domes, yet their presence is undeniable. They bind nations and generations through reverence rather than fear. Similarly, in Islam, relics connected to the Prophet Muhammad, his cloak, his hair, his sword, are preserved in Istanbul's Topkapi Palace, not as idols, but as reminders of humility and guidance. Their quiet preservation reflects a different relationship to mystery, not the assertion of power, but the continuity of memory. In each of these traditions, the relic becomes a mirror. Those who look upon it see not only the object, but the reflection of their own faith, their own longing for certainty in an uncertain world. The relic is proof and parable at once, a whisper of eternity framed within the fragile limits of the human hand. Its presence transforms ordinary spaces into sanctuaries, infusing cities with invisible gravity. A pilgrim kneeling before a relic is not only venerating the past, they're participating in a centuries-old conversation between matter and meaning, between earth and heaven. Yet, many of these relics are also bound by secrecy. Wars have been fought to claim them, and others have been hidden to protect them. During the Crusades, relics were traded like treasures, their authenticity secondary to the faith they could command. Fragments of the true cross appeared in dozens of cathedrals, each piece believed to hold miraculous power. In medieval Europe, relics became the currency of holiness, objects that could elevate a church, attract pilgrims, and shape economies. Skeptics mocked the abundance of sacred wood, yet to the faithful, each piece carried divine light. The question of truth mattered less than the reality of devotion. Mystery itself became a kind of truth. But there is a deeper layer to the story of relics, one that reaches beyond religion into the nature of civilization itself. Across time, relics have acted as anchors of identity. They tell communities who they are and where they come from. When the Ark vanished, when temples burned, when cathedrals fell to war, the memory of the relic endured, carrying people through exile and doubt. Even now, in an age ruled by digital certainty, the relic's quiet power remains. Pilgrims still travel thousands of miles to glimpse a bone, a cloth, a chalice, as though the simple act of witnessing connects them to something infinite. Perhaps it does. There's also the haunting possibility that some relics were never meant to be found. Legends speak of hidden chambers beneath the Temple Mount, of relics buried in labyrinths, guarded by curses, sealed for eternity. Whether or not these tales hold truth, they remind us that mystery has always protected the sacred. In the unknown lies reverence. To expose everything to the light risks destroying the aura that sustains belief. The relic's silence is its strength. It keeps the divine untouchable, inviting faith without forcing proof. As the narrative slows, the camera drifts through dimly lit sanctuaries, candles flickering, incense rising, the faint echo of chanting in stone corridors. Each relic glows faintly within its reliquary, suspended between worlds. The narrator's voice softens, suggesting that relics are not only remnants of holiness, but reflections of a human need to believe that something endures beyond decay. Empires crumble, languages die, knowledge is forgotten, but a fragment of cloth, a shard of bone, a whisper of myth can outlast them all. In their stillness, relics teach us that history's deepest mysteries are not about what we have lost, but about what we continue to seek. And so the story of sacred relics becomes a meditation on continuity. Each one is a paradox, a piece of the mortal world believed to hold eternity. They link us backward to the ancient and forward to the unknown, reminding us that civilization itself is built upon the quiet faith that meaning can survive time. The relic does not need to prove anything. Its existence is enough. As the final candle fades, the voice concludes in a murmur. Perhaps these objects endure not because they contain the divine, but because they awaken the divine within us. The eternal hunger to touch what cannot be touched, to see what cannot be seen, and to believe even when belief itself is a mystery. Knowledge has always been humanity's most dangerous treasure. From the first spark struck against stone to the equations that map the stars, the pursuit of understanding has defined civilization's rise, and at times, its downfall. Yet for every discovery that illuminated the world, countless others vanished into silence, erased by fear, faith, or the shifting tides of empire. In this quiet expanse of forgotten knowledge lies one of history's greatest mysteries. What did our ancestors truly know, and why was so much of it lost? The story of lost sciences and vanished wisdom is not only about what we have failed to preserve, but about how fragile truth can be when it challenges belief. Long before the modern age, thinkers gazed at the sky and saw patterns that guided both science and spirit. In ancient Babylon, astronomers traced the paths of planets with astonishing precision, their clay tablets marking the rhythms of the heavens. In Egypt and Mesoamerica, architects aligned temples with solstices, blending geometry with reverence. These were not primitive acts of wonder. They were the beginnings of empirical observation, born from curiosity rather than superstition. Yet as time passed, much of this knowledge was consumed by conquest and decay. Libraries burned, languages died, and what remained was often misunderstood, stripped of context and reinterpreted through later faiths. The night sky that once served as humanity's first laboratory became a canvas of myths, while the science beneath it faded into obscurity. Among the lost geniuses of antiquity stands Hypatia of Alexandria, a philosopher, mathematician, and astronomer whose brilliance illuminated the waning centuries of the classical world. In her time, Alexandria was a beacon of learning, home to the greatest library ever assembled. Scrolls from Greece, Egypt, Persia, and India rested side by side, forming a global conversation centuries ahead of its time. But that light was fragile. As politics and religion collided, the pursuit of pure reason became dangerous. Hypatia, a woman who taught geometry and the motion of planets, was accused of heresy. Her wisdom turned against her. When she was killed by a mob in 415 CE, it symbolized more than a single life lost. It marked the slow extinguishing of the ancient scientific flame. The Library of Alexandria soon followed into ruin, taking with it texts that might have rewritten the very history of human knowledge. We are left to imagine what vanished there. Maps of forgotten lands, treatises on medicine, perhaps even the blueprints of machines centuries before their time. While much of Western knowledge fell into darkness, the torch was carried eastward. In the golden age of the Islamic world, from Baghdad to Cordoba, scholars became custodians of lost wisdom. They translated Greek and Persian manuscripts, expanded upon them, and created new sciences of their own. Al-Khwarizmi gave us algebra, Al-Hazen laid the foundations of optics, and Avicenna wrote encyclopedias of medicine that guided Europe for hundreds of years. Their observatories tracked the stars with unmatched accuracy. Their hospitals healed with techniques grounded in observation and experiment. Yet even these legacies would later fade, as the centers of knowledge declined and new powers rose. The chain of inheritance was broken again, leaving modern civilization with fragments of what once was, a mosaic of brilliance scattered by time. Parallel to the rational sciences ran another stream of inquiry, one that modern eyes may see as mystical, but which once represented genuine curiosity about the workings of nature: alchemy. To the medieval mind, alchemy was not merely the search for gold, but a quest for transformation, both material and spiritual. It sought to understand the hidden correspondences between the elements, the relationship between matter and spirit. Alchemists like Paracelsus viewed the body as a miniature cosmos, governed by principles of balance and resonance. In their cryptic language of mercury, sulfur, and salt lay early glimpses of chemistry and psychology. though their experiments were wrapped in symbolism. Their hands mixed real substances, observed reactions, and recorded results. Out of their secret furnaces, the science of chemistry would one day emerge. But in their own time, many alchemists were dismissed as heretics or madmen. Some were imprisoned, others executed, their manuscripts confiscated or burned. Their wisdom was too strange for the age that birthed it. Even as Europe inched toward enlightenment, knowledge remained vulnerable to the storms of ideology. The story of Galileo, compelled to silence under threat of the Inquisition, is one of countless examples where discovery met resistance. The telescope revealed a universe far larger and older than Scripture had described, but power could not easily yield to truth. For every scientist celebrated in textbooks, there were others whose work was suppressed, misinterpreted, or deliberately erased. The archives of monasteries and courts hold letters and diagrams hinting at machines, theories, and inventions that vanished without trace. Knowledge, it seems, has always walked a narrow path between illumination and danger. In more ancient traditions, such as those of India and China, knowledge was preserved differently. It was not written in isolated texts, but woven into ritual, art, and philosophy. The Ayurvedic physicians and Taoist alchemists studied balance within the body and cosmos alike. They understood the link between breath and emotion, medicine and morality. Some of their insights anticipated modern discoveries of the nervous system and psychology, though cloaked in metaphor. Yet colonization, translation errors, and cultural prejudice led much of this to be dismissed or forgotten. The modern world inherited their fragments without their frameworks, gaining formulas but losing wisdom. Across all ages, the loss of knowledge follows a familiar rhythm: discovery, wonder, fear, suppression, and rediscovery. What one civilization guards, the next destroys. The fires that consumed libraries in Alexandria and Baghdad are the same flames that once burned heretical scientists at the stake. But knowledge, unlike empire, cannot be entirely conquered. It survives in symbols, in oral traditions, in the margins of manuscripts. Even when forgotten, it waits, like embers buried beneath ash, ready to reignite when the world is prepared to listen. What might we have known if none of it had been lost? Some legends speak of technologies too advanced for their time. Ancient batteries in Mesopotamia, maps of Antarctica before it was icebound, models of planetary motion for forgotten ages. Skeptics dismiss these as coincidences or misinterpretations, yet their persistence in collective imagination reveals something deeper, a sense that human potential has cycled through rises and collapses, that civilization may not be a straight line, but a spiral of rediscovery. Each age rediscovers fragments of the last, polishing them anew while other truths slip quietly into shadow. As the narrative slows, the imagery softens. A scholar's hand turns the brittle pages of an ancient codex. A beam of light falls across faded ink. Dust dances in the air like time made visible. The voice of the narrator grows quieter, more reflective. Knowledge, it says, is both gift and burden. It asks us to look beyond comfort, to confront uncertainty. Every lost book, every silenced thinker, every ruined laboratory is a reminder of how delicate the pursuit of truth can be. Civilization advances not because it knows everything, but because it keeps asking, even when the answers disappear. And so, the story of lost knowledge becomes a meditation on resilience. Though history's flames have devoured libraries and silenced voices, the spark of curiosity endures. It leaps from culture to culture, from mind to mind, surviving wars, dogma, and neglect. The forgotten sciences of the past are not gone. They live in the very questions we still ask. To wonder is to remember. To seek is to rebuild. And in the soft darkness of history's forgotten halls, the spirit of discovery still flickers, waiting for the next generation to find it, to name it, and to keep the light alive. There are moments in history when the world feels larger than imagination itself, when the line between fact and fantasy blurs, and maps become mirrors of human hope. This is the quiet world between knowledge and wonder, where cartographers of old traced coastlines they had never seen and filled the blank spaces of the world with dragons, gods, and whispers of lands yet to be found. To look at an ancient map is to gaze not only upon geography, but upon the human mind, its courage, its fear, its need to draw order out of mystery. The story of these maps to nowhere, these edges of the known world, is the story of humanity reaching for infinity with trembling hands. In the centuries before satellites and compasses, the mapmaker's craft was an act of faith. Every stroke of ink carried both precision and imagination. The oldest surviving maps, the Babylonian world map carved in clay, the Ptolemaic visions of the cosmos, the medieval Mappe Mundi, reveal how we once saw our place in the universe. The earth was not only land and sea. It was a moral landscape filled with meaning. At its center stood Jerusalem, or Delphi, or sacred mountain, anchoring human history within divine design. Beyond the known borders, cartographers wrote 3 haunting words: Hic sunt dragons, here be dragons. It was both warning and invitation, a poetic symbol of everything still unknown. The unknown was not yet a void to conquer, but a realm to revere. Among the most mysterious of these ancient maps is the Piri-Reis map, drawn in 1513 by an Ottoman admiral whose vision outstripped his age. On a fragment of gazelle-skin parchment, he depicted parts of Europe, Africa, and the Americas with uncanny accuracy, long before some of those coasts were supposedly known. Stranger still, the southern portion of the map seems to outline Antarctica without ice. The suggestion has stirred centuries of speculation. Could it have preserved knowledge from a forgotten age, a memory of the world before the last great ice sheets? Or was it the product of sheer genius, a synthesis of older maps and rumor woven together? The Piri-Reis map stands as an enigma at the crossroads of science and myth, a reminder that knowledge does not always progress in straight lines. Throughout the Middle Ages and Renaissance, mapmakers danced between truth and imagination. They drew islands that did not exist, continents that shimmered like mirages, and sea routes whispered by sailors who never returned. The island of High Brazil, said to lie west of Ireland, appeared on maps for hundreds of years, a phantom land glimpsed only once every 7 years. Some claimed it was a paradise of eternal youth. Others thought it a trick of fog and light. Expeditions sailed to find it, and none succeeded. Yet the name persisted, echoing across time until it became legend. The maps preserved it long after belief had faded, proof that the dream of discovery can be stronger than discovery itself. The age of exploration brought both illumination and illusion. When European navigators began to cross the Atlantic and Pacific, they entered a sea of myths. The farther they went, the more their instruments betrayed them. The compass spun oddly near the poles. Stars shifted as if the heavens themselves had changed. Explorers filled the margins of their journals with guesses and ghosts. Terra Australis Incognita, the great southern continent, was drawn vast and symmetrical to balance the world, its imagined outline shaping centuries of voyages. Every new expedition both corrected and deepened the mystery. For every island found, another was lost. For every line of coastline charted, a new uncertainty appeared. There is a strange poetry to these errors. The phantom islands and vanished continents are the footprints of human imagination. They remind us that maps were once living things, growing and changing like the people who made them. Each generation redrew the world according to its fears and dreams. When the Vikings mapped Vinland, they saw hope in the west. When medieval monks sketched Eden, they sought redemption through geography. And when explorers traced the coasts of Africa and Asia, they believed they were closing the circle of the earth, not realizing they were opening the door to a far larger universe. Yet even as maps became more accurate, something sacred was lost. The world grew smaller, but not necessarily clearer. The dragons vanished from the margins, replaced by neat lines of latitude and longitude. Mystery gave way to measurement. But beneath the precision of modern charts, the old spirit lingers. The ocean still hides unseen depths. There are still islands that shift and disappear, volcanic lands born and drowned in the same century. The edge of the known world may have moved, but has not vanished. It lives now in the stars we map, the particles we chase, the dark matter we cannot yet see. There is also the mystery of perspective, the quiet truth that every map is both revelation and illusion. A map reflects not only what is known, but who is doing the knowing. Ancient Chinese maps place their empire at the center of the world. European maps crown Jerusalem as the heart of creation. Polynesian navigators drew star maps in memory, not on paper, guiding themselves across the Pacific without compass or chart. Each vision was complete within its own logic. To study them now is to glimpse countless versions of reality, overlapping and diverging, each believing itself whole. Perhaps the greatest mystery is not what was omitted, but how many truths the world can hold at once. The wind over parchment fades, replaced by the sound of waves and gulls. The camera drifts slowly across an old map, its edges curling, ink faded by time. The narrator's voice lowers, almost a whisper. The explorers who once set sail from these inked coastlines carried more than compasses. They carried stories, dreams, and the silent conviction that there must always be something beyond the horizon. Some found new lands, others vanished into history's fog. But all were driven by the same hunger, to replace the unknown with experience, and in doing so, to expand what it meant to be human. And yet, perhaps, the greatest discoveries are not those that reveal more, but those that remind us how much remains unseen. Even now, when satellites circle the globe and every shore seems known, there are still blank spaces, not on paper but within us. The map of human curiosity has no end, only edges that keep receding. As the waves fade and the stars return, the voice softens to a close. The world may be mapped, but mystery still breathes beneath its surface. Every horizon we reach reveals another beyond it, waiting quietly, patiently, for someone to dream it into being once more. The ocean has always been both a mirror and a veil. It reflects the sky but hides its depths, offering the illusion of clarity while keeping its secrets sealed beneath the waves. In the centuries we call the Age of Discovery, humanity set sail upon that uncertain mirror, driven by greed, faith, curiosity, and wonder. It was an age of revelation, but also of disappearance. For every land found, a ship was lost. For every empire built, a mystery was born. The explorers who left their shores seeking new worlds could not have known that they were also creating some of the most haunting enigmas in history. Stories that drift between discovery and oblivion, their echoes still felt today. When the English colony at Roanoke was founded in 1587, it was meant to be a beacon of the New World, an outpost of hope on the edge of an unknown continent. 100 settlers built homes and dreams on that quiet stretch of coast, surrounded by vast forests and endless possibility. Then, within 3 short years, they vanished. When supply ships returned from England, they found the settlement abandoned, its houses dismantled, its people gone without a trace. The only clue was a single word carved into a post, Croton. The meaning remains uncertain. Some believe the settlers joined a nearby indigenous tribe. Others think they perished in famine or flight. But the silence of Roanoke is deeper than fact. It is the silence of the frontier itself, where new beginnings and final endings often look the same. The lost colony became not just a mystery of history, but a metaphor for all the unknowns we chase when we reach too far from home. Not all explorers vanished on land. Many were swallowed by the sea that promised their glory. In the Arctic, where the horizon is an endless field of white, countless expeditions sought the Northwest Passage, a fabled route that would bind the Atlantic and Pacific in a single thread of trade and conquest. Among them was Sir John Franklin's expedition of 1845, which set sail with 2 ships, over 100 men, and enough provisions for years. They were last seen in the icy waters near Baffin Bay. What followed was a tragedy drawn out over decades of search and rumor. When traces were finally found, they told a tale of unimaginable hardship. Ships trapped in ice, men starving, perhaps driven to desperate measures. Their bones were discovered scattered across the frozen islands of Canada, marked by both human perseverance and human fragility. The mystery of Franklin's fate still resonates, a reminder that even in the age of reason, nature can remain implacably silent. To the south, other mysteries unfolded in the jungles and highlands of the world newly mapped. Spanish conquistadors spoke of lost cities built of gold, El Dorado, Paititi, the seven cities of Cibola. These were more than legends. They were obsessions that devoured men and empires. Expeditions marched into the green labyrinth of the Amazon and never returned. Some were undone by disease or hunger, others by their own delusion. Yet every generation revived the search, guided by ancient stories and fragments of native lore. Even today, satellites occasionally reveal strange geometric clearings deep in the forest, traces of forgotten civilizations that may have inspired the myths. The line between discovery and imagination remains as blurred as the horizon in a storm. Far across the Pacific, explorers met mysteries of a different kind. The vast ocean was already known to others long before European sails touched its waters. Polynesian navigators had mapped the Pacific with precision using stars, waves, and memory alone. Their knowledge was invisible to outsiders, unwritten, encoded in chants and constellations, but allowed them to cross thousands of miles of open sea. When Western explorers first arrived, they were astonished to find people living on islands scattered across an ocean larger than all the continents combined. How had they come to be there? The answer lay in a science of the senses, a legacy of navigation so profound that it still humbles modern technology. Yet even among these masters of the ocean, mysteries remain. Why did the Great Migrations suddenly stop? What caused entire island communities, like those of Easter Island, to rise to brilliance and then collapse in a silence? The story of Easter Island, or Rapa Nui, stands as one of the most poignant enigmas of human history. On this remote rock in the Pacific, a civilization carved hundreds of colossal stone faces, the Moai, each weighing tons, each gazing inland as if watching over their vanished creators. When European ships first landed in the 18th century, the people of the island were few, their society fractured, the great statues toppled. What had happened? Theories range from deforestation to internal conflict to invasion, but no single answer satisfies. The Moai remain mute, their eyes empty yet eternal. They embody a question that transcends geography. What happens when ambition outpaces balance? When humanity's reach exceeds its roots? The Age of Discovery did not only reveal new lands, it revealed the limits of our understanding. Explorers mapped coastlines but stumbled over meaning. They encountered civilizations older than their own and misread them as new. They carried faith across oceans, but often found only reflection, seeing in others what they feared or desired within themselves. The very act of discovery was double-edged. It expanded the world while erasing countless others. Lost cultures, lost languages, lost stories, all folded into the shadows of progress. The world was no longer an unmapped expanse, but a patchwork of mysteries displaced by the illusion of completion. Still, even as discovery devoured mystery, it also created new ones. Strange lights in the sky, uncharted islands, vanishing ships. The ocean remained the ultimate keeper of secrets. Among these tales, few have haunted the modern imagination like that of the Mary Celeste, found adrift in the Atlantic in 1872, her sails full, her cargo untouched, but her crew gone as if they had stepped quietly into thin air. No struggle, no storm, no sign of violence, only absence. Theories abound. Mutiny, seaquake, alcohol fumes, a rogue wave. Yet nothing fits completely. The Mary Celeste drifts still through history as a ghost of human exploration, proof that the unknown is not confined to distant centuries, but follows us wherever we go. The echoes of that era linger in our maps and in our minds. Every vanished colony, every shipwreck, every phantom island stands as a reminder that exploration is as much about loss as discovery. The sea that gave us the world's edges also gave us its absences. It teaches humility, that for all our compasses and charts, we are still creatures of wonder, drawn irresistibly toward the dark spaces on the map. The age of discovery never truly ended, it only changed form. We no longer sail to find new continents, but to uncover lost meanings, to explore the deep oceans of history, memory, and mystery that remain within us. As the narration slows, the imagery shifts, sails unfurling under pale light, waves folding endlessly into one another, the horizon dissolving into mist. The voice becomes almost a whisper, a confession. Perhaps the greatest discoveries were never about finding new lands at all, but about understanding that mystery is the true shape of the world. Every voyage, every map, every lost expedition was an act of faith, a belief that beyond the edge of the known, something waits to be revealed. And though the ships have long since rotted and the colonies turned to dust, the longing that drove them endures. The ocean still calls, and humanity still listens, leaning into the wind, haunted by the same beautiful question: what lies just beyond the horizon? There are mysteries not found in ruins or under the sea, but in the fabric of the human mind itself. The past is not always hidden beneath the earth. It sometimes hides in plain sight, woven into the stories we tell and the symbols we forget how to read. Across cultures and continents, there are monuments whose meaning has been eroded by time, languages no one can speak, and technologies that seem to have appeared centuries before their time. These are the enigmas that stand between science and myth, where the known world feels incomplete. They remind us that progress is not a straight line, but a spiral, one that loops back upon forgotten wisdom, half-remembered dreams, and questions we have not yet learned how to ask. One of the most haunting examples lies deep in the jungles of Guatemala, where the ancient Maya carved a history in stone unlike any other. Their temples rise like stairways to the sky, their cities aligned with stars and solstices, their calendars so intricate that they track the rhythm of Venus with mathematical precision. Yet for centuries, their writing, the elegant, looping script known as Maya hieroglyphics, remained unreadable. It was a lost language of gods and kings, locked in silence. When scholars finally began to decipher it in the 20th century, a startling revelation emerged. These were not myths or abstractions, but vivid accounts of real people, wars, coronations, and beliefs. The Maya had not been a mysterious, vanished race. They were historians of their own world. And yet, even now, some glyphs resist translation, guarding the last secrets of a civilization that saw time itself as a living being. What wisdom remains buried in their unbroken symbols? Perhaps answers to questions we have not yet thought to ask. From the jungles of Central America, the story shifts to the windswept plains of Peru, where lines drawn into the earth stretch for miles across the desert floor. The Nazca lines, geoglyphs of birds, animals, and geometric shapes, can only be fully seen from the air, a perspective the ancient builders could never have possessed, or so we assume. Their scale and precision baffle modern engineers. Were they messages to the gods, celestial calendars, or spiritual maps of the unseen world? The desert offers no clue, only silence. The lines remain etched in the sand, untouched by centuries of wind, as if waiting for an interpreter who has not yet been born. Science tells us how they were made. Mystery asks us why. Across the sea, another ancient puzzle rises from the sands of Egypt, not in the form of a pyramid, but as a whisper of something far older. Beneath the paws of the Great Sphinx lies a chamber rumored to hold records of a forgotten epic, the so-called Hall of Records. Though no evidence has been found, the very idea continues to stir fascination. The Sphinx itself, eroded by wind and time, seems older than the civilization that built it. Some geologists claim its weathering suggests reigns that predate dynastic Egypt by thousands of years, echoes of a civilization lost to history. Others dismiss the idea as wishful speculation. Yet the mystery remains, carved into the limestone gaze of the Sphinx. How much of humanity's memory has already been erased? Further north, in the frozen tundras of Siberia, lies another enigma, the so-called Siberian cauldrons, massive metallic domes partially buried in the permafrost, rumored by locals to date from an unknown age. Expeditions have reported strange readings and inexplicable illnesses among those who approach them, fueling speculation of ancient technology or natural anomaly. Whether these tales are rooted in fact or folklore hardly matters. They reveal something about our enduring need to fill the voids in history with imagination. Every civilization, it seems, leaves behind artifacts that don't quite fit. The Antikythera mechanism in Greece, the Baghdad battery in Mesopotamia, the pyramids aligned with stars across continents. Each discovery bends the narrative of human progress, suggesting that ancient minds may have glimpsed truths we have only recently rediscovered. In India, the ancient texts known as the Vedas speak of flying machines called vimanas and cosmic wars fought with weapons of light and sound. To the literal-minded, they are myths. To others, they hint at an understanding of physics and energy far ahead of their time. The temples of South India, carved with astronomical precision, encode alignments that mark solar cycles and planetary movements with an accuracy that rivals modern instruments. How could people with no telescopes know so much about the heavens? Perhaps because they looked not only outward, but inward, seeing in the cosmos a reflection of consciousness itself. The mystery is not whether their knowledge was advanced, but how differently they understood the unity between mind, matter, and time. Then there is Göbekli Tepe in modern-day Turkey, a stone temple buried deliberately 12,000 years ago, long before the rise of agriculture or the wheel. Its carvings depict animals, symbols, and patterns that seem to anticipate the birth of civilization itself. Who built it and why? Its pillars weigh tons, yet were moved and arranged by a people we once thought too primitive for such feats. The site challenges the entire timeline of human development. It suggests that our ancestors possessed organization, symbolism, and spirituality long before cities or writing. The temple's deliberate burial, its return to the earth, feels almost ceremonial, as though its builders wanted to preserve it for a future age that might understand. What were they trying to tell us? All these mysteries share a single thread. They whisper of continuity where we see separation. The ancients, it seems, viewed the world not as a collection of isolated facts, but as a living web, where the stars, the stones, and the soul were intertwined. We, in our modern certainty, dissect and categorize. They, in their forgotten wisdom, unified and mythologized. The result is a kind of historical amnesia. We call their wonders mysteries, not because they defy logic, but because they belong to a logic we have forgotten how to speak. The lost technologies, the unread languages, the precise alignments. They may not be supernatural at all, but simply human knowledge expressed through a different grammar of thought. And yet, perhaps the greatest enigma is why we keep seeking these answers at all. What draws us back to ruins, to stones that hum with meaning? It is not simply curiosity, but recognition, a quiet sense that we are not discovering something new, but remembering something old. The pulse of the unknown beats not in the artifacts, but in us. Every untranslatable word, every unexplained monument, every vanished civilization is a reflection of our own unfinished story. They are mirrors through time, showing us that mystery is not the absence of knowledge, but the presence of possibility. As the imagery fades, the camera moves over a landscape of ancient sites bathed in twilight. Temples half-buried, statues worn smooth by centuries of wind, inscriptions glowing faintly in the dying sun. The narrator's voice slows to a soft cadence, reverent and still. We stand on the shoulders of forgotten giants, tracing their shadows in the dust, feeling the faint tremor of their dreams beneath our feet. The past is not dead, it is only waiting to be heard. And as we listen, carefully, quietly, we begin to realize that the greatest historical mysteries are not those that resist explanation, but those that remind us how much of ourselves we have yet to rediscover. Through every age of progress, mystery has never disappeared. It has only changed its disguise. The secret societies of the Renaissance, the strange inventions of Nikola Tesla, the rumors of the Philadelphia experiment, and the enduring puzzle of the Voynich manuscript all remind us that knowledge often walks hand in hand with secrecy. Even in our modern world of science and satellites, there remain shadows that reason cannot quite reach. We chase these enigmas not only for answers but for meaning, because mystery gives depth to our understanding, texture to our truth. From ancient alchemists to modern scientists, humanity has always believed that somewhere behind the visible world lies another, unseen one, a realm of hidden patterns and quiet power. The symbols, the coded texts, the unexplained signals from the stars, all are echoes of that deeper search. They whisper that for all we have learned, the unknown still surrounds us like air. And perhaps that is as it should be. Mystery is not the enemy of knowledge, but its companion, reminding us that wonder is the beginning of wisdom. As our machines grow louder, the universe answers only in silence, a silence filled with possibility, waiting for us to listen. The night closes like a curtain over the long story of human curiosity. Across centuries of discovery, loss, and wonder, one truth remains constant. Mystery endures. It does not hide from us. It walks beside us, shaping how we see the world. Every civilization has chased it, carving questions into stone, painting them in the stars, whispering them into myths. And though time erases names and kingdoms, the questions survive. They are what connect us to those who came before and to those who will follow after. Perhaps the purpose of mystery is not to be solved, but to remind us to look deeper, beyond facts, beyond certainty. It humbles us, teaches us that knowledge without awe is incomplete. For even as we map the stars and measure time, the heart still longs for the unknown. That longing is our greatest inheritance. As the world sleeps, the quiet hum of existence carries on, a rhythm older than language, older than memory. The mysteries we seek are not just out there in the ruins or the stars. They're within us, written into our very being. And so, the story does not end here. It continues in every question whispered into the dark, in every dream that reaches beyond the horizon. Because in truth, mystery is not what hides from us. It is what keeps us human.